Let's delve deeper into President Trump's Asia trip. Specifics of his itinerary isn't confirmed, but the world is fascinated with what he plans to get done in South Korea, the second stop of his five-nation tour. Most recently, he grabbed attention by confidently saying he is the man to resolve the issues with Pyongyang. Hwang Woo-jun has the full story.
He gave Kim Jong-un the nickname Rocket Man. He said North Korea would face fire and fury if it doesn't abandon its nuclear ambitions. And though it would appear the situation has not yet improved, President Trump says he's a problem solver who will put an end to North Korea's provocations.
During his first official visit to Asia, President Trump plans to advocate for increased international support to pressure the Kim Jong-un regime to give up its nuclear weapons. Preventing North Korea from developing a nuclear-armed missile that could reach the U.S. mainland has become a top national security priority for Trump.
He's raised all kinds of expectations about what he is going to do about North Korea. And if he doesn't do those things, then it seriously threatens his identity, it undermines him, it undercuts him.
In an interview with Fox Business, which aired in the U.S. Wednesday night, Trump called North Korea a, quote, very big problem. He criticized his predecessors for failing to solve it, but said confidently that he's the one who will finally take care of it. In a year of extraordinary provocations from Pyongyang and heated rhetoric, President Trump's agenda during his visit to Seoul will be mainly focused on related issues. The White House said just days ago that a visit to the demilitarized zone is unlikely, but President Trump himself is not ruling out a surprise trip.
Well, I'd rather not say, but you'll be surprised.
All U.S. presidents since Ronald Reagan, minus the elder George Bush, have visited the DMZ, and so did Vice President Mike Pence last April. So Trump would be breaking with the president if he didn't go. According to an anonymous Cheongwade official, the Blue House has recommended that President Trump visit Camp Humphreys, a brand new military base built for U.S. Forces Korea in Pyeongtaek, about 60 kilometers south of Seoul. However, the official said whether President Trump decides to visit the demilitarized zone lies solely with the White House.
The Trump administration has worked with China and Russia in the United Nations to pass tougher economic sanctions that could reduce North Korean trade by 90% and oil imports by 30%, and also imposed unilateral restrictions as well. However, U.S. military allies Japan and South Korea have been split over Trump's emphasis on the possible use of military force and his threatening fire and fury rhetoric to totally destroy North Korea if provoked. In Japan, Trump will meet and likely golf with Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, perhaps his closest friend in Asia.
President Trump and Prime Minister Abe also agree on a number of issues, including in particular on the North Korea problem to a very large extent.
Japanese public support for Abe's strong stance on national security was bolstered after North Korea conducted 2 missile tests that flew over Japanese airspace and helped his conservative coalition recently win a decisive victory in an early parliamentary election. Yet while Abe has voiced staunch support for Trump's maximum pressure policy, officials in Seoul have quietly indicated that the threat of force is a diplomatic tactic to force concessions from North Korea and China. South Korean President Moon Jae-in is also expected to emphasize his country's long-standing ironclad U.S. alliance when he meets with Trump in Seoul. However, the liberal South Korean leader has openly opposed any use of force on the Korean peninsula that could engulf the region in a devastating war.
I think Trump's visit is an opportunity to educate him in terms of how South Koreans see this, and the fact that South Korea's been living under a credible threat of North Korean nuclear attack for a while now, and we're all doing fine.
Trump has characterized Moon's past efforts to engage North Korea in dialogue as unworkable appeasement.
According to U.S. officials, Washington's diplomacy with Pyongyang is on the brink of collapse over the refusal by both President Trump and the North Korean regime to engage in dialogue. NBC News reported on Wednesday that Joseph Yoon, Washington's top envoy to North Korea, was growing frustrated at his inability to inform the White House of the urgency of the situation. According to a congressional aide who spoke with Yoon, the diplomat is now considering a Hail Mary attempt to rejuvenate talks by sending State Secretary Rex Tillerson or another high-level U.S. official to Pyongyang. Yoon reportedly said Trump's tough rhetoric was dashing any hopes of restarting negotiations with the North while escalating the risk of military conflict. The U.S. president has been trading harsh verbal attacks with the Kim Jong-un regime in recent months, while openly challenging Tillerson's efforts to talk to North Korea earlier this month. Pyongyang has also shunned the possibility of any talks in the near term, while threatening more provocations, adding to the current impasse between the two countries. However, Trump administration officials are still keen to resolve the crisis without bloodshed, with Defense Secretary James Mattis saying the international community is searching for a peaceful solution. Speaking after attending an ASEAN Security Forum in the Philippines, Mattis said the U.S. is not rushing to war and said diplomatic efforts and sanctions will hopefully influence North Korea to change course. All of these developments with just over 1 week left to go until President Trump embarks on his week-long Asia visit, starting with Japan and South Korea.
For now, differences between Seoul and Washington have been muted in the face of North Korea's continued missile and nuclear tests and Pyongyang's refusal to engage in inter-Korean talks or even accept offers of humanitarian aid from the South.
In communicating the urgency of diplomacy, and I was wondering if you have a comment on this. He reportedly said that the White House has handicapped diplomacy, so what does this mean? Is the State Department on the same page with the White House?
The State Department is on the same page with the White House. Ambassador Yoon has served here at the State Department with great distinction. Ambassador Yoon has been advancing our peaceful pressure campaign since the very day that the president took office, since January 20th or 21st. Ambassador Yoon is highly regarded by the Secretary of State, as many in this building. You all recall that Ambassador Yoon was the one who was called upon to fly over to North Korea to bring home Otto Warmbier. So since day one, he has advanced administration priorities. The priorities in our peaceful pressure campaign, something that was set by this administration, by the president, and we've been pushing forward just to implement that. So Ambassador Yoon has our full backing.
And then one more on the Asia trip. U.S. Ambassador to the Philippines, Sung Kim, said that President Trump will not be attending the East Asia Summit this year. So doesn't this contrast with the administration's goal to remain engaged with East Asia?
I don't have anything for you on that. I'd have to refer you to the White House for anything on the president's specific schedule. But I can sure tell you, we have spent a lot of time in the region. The president is going over there next week, I believe it is. The secretary will be accompanying the president on that as well. Our deputy secretary, John Sullivan, just returned from South Korea as well as Japan. It's an area we have spent an awful lot of time. We've invested a lot of time in that, and we have a strong relationship with many of those countries, as you well know.
And I know you might not have it, but if you get a chance, can you tell us who will be leading the U.S. delegation instead of the president?
Again, I'm not confirming if the president is or isn't going. I just don't have the information on that. I'd have to refer to the White House. If the State Department has a significant role in that, I'll certainly let you know. Okay. Hey, how are you?
Good. The State Department has till next Wednesday to report to Congress on whether North Korea should be redesignated state sponsor of terror. Has any determination been made on that? And if not, what information is the Secretary still debating to make that determination?
I know a lot of people are interested in that issue. Will North Korea be designated as a state sponsor of terror? Secretary Tillerson had addressed this somewhat when we talked about Otto Warmbier. He said that we will hold North Korea accountable. for his unjust imprisonment, and as we, of course, extended our condolences to the family and always do every time we talk about this. Just to be clear, as a matter of law, for any country to be determined to be a state sponsor of terror, the Secretary of State has to determine that the government of that country has repeatedly provided support for the acts of international terrorism. This is a very technical legal thing. I think you're all aware of that. The designations are made after careful review of all the available evidence to determine if a country actually meets that statutory standard. It's a statutory standard. I know we are constantly reviewing all information on countries of interest such as that, but I just don't have any specific decisions for you just yet. It's an ongoing process.
Do you anticipate, though, that